Hey, what's going on, everybody? In the video today, I'm going to cover three things. First, I'm going to look at $25,000 that was invested 3 years ago, how much it's grown to today. Secondly, I'm going to cover why I believe everybody should have a brokerage account. And the third thing is why I personally do not use stop loss orders. Okay, now listen, if you have not subscribed, can you please go ahead and subscribe? I'm going to be dropping gems. So go ahead and subscribe, like, and share this video so we can all build this wealth together. Over time, no get rich quick schemes. It's all about building long-term sustainable wealth. All right, so now, 3 years ago, a friend of mine had $25,000 that he wanted to invest. He had that money sitting in a credit union for about 4 or 5 years that was just sitting there. Of course, savings accounts, credit unions, whatever. Typically, they aren't making you any money. They aren't earning anything. So you have to put your money to work. You go to work, you earn money, then you have to take a portion of that money to put to work to earn more money for you. And that money can earn more money a lot faster than you can because money never sleeps, it never gets tired, it never gets sick, it never needs a day off, so it's constantly working. Okay, so $25,000, we set up the account, and this is how we split the money up. We invested it between 5 different companies. It was these companies that at time that I felt were 3 or 5 fantastic buys. So they were split between Apple, Broadcom, Nvidia, Amazon, and Tesla. So what we're going to do is we're just going to fast forward and look at how much they're worth today. So you see this chart here, this goes from 11/10. So the November 10th was the day the investments were made. So this is 3 years, November 10th, 2025. So the 3-year growth. You can see that Apple, we're just going to round up just to use round numbers. You can pause it if you want to look at the numbers in more detail. I hope you do. Apple, the $5,000 that was invested 3 years ago is now worth $9,300. The $5,000 that was invested in Broadcom has now grown to almost $36,000. The $5,000 that was invested in Nvidia is now grown to almost $64,000. The $5,000 that was invested in Amazon is now worth about $13,000. And the $5,000 that was invested in Tesla is now close to $12,000. Now, we're always looking at how these companies work together in aggregate. So instead of trying to figure out what one company is going to be the best performing company over the coming years, it's about how they perform in aggregate. So that total of $25,000 that was invested 3 years ago has now grown to $133,597.15. So now you look at the aspect here, the last couple of columns here, you see the unrealized gains. This is what I'm going to talk about. Now, this isn't a brokerage account. So, number one, this is why I say everybody should have a brokerage account. Because, number one, if it was in a retirement account, he doesn't have access to the money until 59 and a half. Guess what? You have access to your money. You have access to a growing pile of money, if you will. So, the unrealized gains for Apple was $4,000, Broadcom almost $31,000, Nvidia close to $60,000, Amazon close to $8,000, and then Tesla close to $7,000. So you can see the growth of it. Now, the unrealized gain portion, one thing you got to realize about unrealized gains is that you're not taxed on unrealized gains. People always talk about tax advantage accounts, and they call it a taxable brokerage account because one of the things is, if you're not doing a bunch of trading, you're not going to create a whole lot of taxable events. If you're buying businesses, which I recommend, which I do for myself, which I do for my daughters. If you're buying businesses to own and you're not trading stocks, you're not jumping from one stock to the next, you're not creating a whole bunch of taxable events. You're not taxed on unrealized gains. So your money can grow in a brokerage account and you have access to it. Not in a retirement account, so it's not taxed on unrealized gains. Now, if you see the last column here, the taxable income, that's what you're taxed on. You're taxed on dividends, but it's taxed at a lower rate than the income that you receive from employment. You can see if you go down to the total, The taxable income on these shares in 2025 is $284.11. So $284.11 gets added to the income. But the $108,000 is not taxable. So you're able to grow your money without having that money taxed. That's one of the beautiful things about buying businesses. In a regular brokerage account, you can grow your money. You can have that money available to you, but you're not being hit with all these taxes. Now, if you have mutual funds have a high turnover. So they're constantly buying and selling. So that creates a lot of taxable events. But if you're not doing that, if you're buying great businesses and you own, and I told him, I said, listen, you can buy these businesses and you can look a decade out into the future. And I believe that you can probably own these businesses for a decade and not have to worry about doing anything but allowing your money to compound. Compounding is the key. Compounding in time and is the keys to building long-term sustainable wealth. I said you can allow that money to compound over time without messing with it, without moving it, and you're going to get greater results than if you had somebody trying to manage it for you and moving money around and rebalancing and doing all this stuff. That's another thing. Rebalance it, like there's no need. Why if rebalancing this would be like I'm going to sell Nvidia and Broadcom or Nvidia because it's grown the most, and I'm going to take the money from that one and put it to the one that hasn't grown the most. Mathematically, to me, that makes no sense. Why would you sell a company, a great business that's growing your wealth for you and your family, and put it to one that's not growing your wealth as fast? They're growing, but not growing it at the same rate. Just because somebody somewhere said we need to rebalance your portfolio every so often. You know, people do that to get paid off of you. So be leery of that. He has no fees. Nobody's getting paid off of him for doing this. There's no ongoing fees. There's no 1% managerial fee for just owning these businesses and allowing them to compound. And if he wants to use the money, he can use the money for whenever he wants to. All right. So now, another thing about when I said about not using stop loss orders. People use stop loss orders because they look at if they have a stock that's a certain price and then the price begins to depreciate. Sometimes the advisor or even the individual might put in a stop loss order to say when the stock goes down 20% or reaches X price, then we sell the stock because I want to prevent any further losses. Now, if you can't wrap your mind around the fact that just because your stock price is depreciating doesn't mean you're necessarily losing money. You're losing value. The value of your portfolio is decreasing, but you're not losing money. So you don't have to worry about, need to lock in losses or lock in gains or any of that stuff. As a matter of fact, during Liberation Day or during all this tariff stuff that was going on earlier in the year, if let's say you put in a stop loss order at 20%. So when the stock decreased in value by 20%, it will automatically sell the stock. During the Liberation Day or during the tariff stuff that was going on earlier, Amazon went down by 20%. This is from January 1st up through April 8th of 2025. Amazon, the stock went down 20%. Nvidia, the stock, and Apple, both of those, the stock went down as much as 30%. Broadcom, the stock went down 35%. Tesla, the stock went down as much as 45%. So if you would have put in stop loss orders, it would have triggered when that stock hits the price. You would have sold out of all these companies right now. And I guess you could say, well, I stopped the losses, so I stopped from losing money. But look what you would have missed out on. You'd have missed out on the growth. Stocks go up, stocks go down all the time. You look at it, you see it daily. Stocks can go up and down. But long term, you look at the stock price will always match the business over the long term. And here's the thing. When you have a group of businesses, you don't even have to be right about all of them. If you could be right 1 out of 5 times with a great business and you just own it for 10, 15, 20 years and just allow it to compound, it can do a lot of change. It can make a lot of difference in building up a long-term sustainable wealth. So you can see just how the power of compounding works. Buy great businesses, leave them alone, let them compound. This is 3 years. This is just 3 years. Now, in terms of compounding, that means that this money has doubled twice in 3 years. Whenever you think about compounding, you got to think about doubling. So 25,000 doubled to 50,000, and then it doubled from 50,000 to 100,000. So it's on its third doubling cycle. So let's say people always say, well, the average rate of return for the stock market is, let's say, 10%. 10%, that means it would take 7 years using the rule of 72 to double your money. So in order to double your money twice, if you took 25,000 and you average 10% rate of return, it would take 14 years. This did it in 3. And it's actually more than 3. It would take 14 years to go from 25,000 to 100,000. Most professional managers say they get you 8%. 8% means your money would double every 9 years. That means it would take 18 years if you gave somebody 25,000 to double your money from 25,000 to 100 if they average 8% rate of return. It doubles every 9 years. 25,000 will double to 50,000 by year 9, and then from 50,000 to 100,000 by year 18. I'm all for cutting out the middleman, because I know that owning great businesses will yield far greater results than me paying a fee to somebody for managerial purposes. If you plant a tree and that tree takes up roots and the tree begins to grow, do you have to pay somebody to watch the tree to make sure it keeps growing? If you're in good businesses, you have all these people. Elon Musk is in charge of Tesla. Andy Jassy is in charge of Amazon. They're CEOs. They run the companies. Tim Cook runs Apple. Jensen Huang runs NVIDIA. And Hock Tan runs Broadcom. These people are running the company. So if you're buying the business, you're like a silent partner. A silent partner. These CEOs are running the company. And all you have to do is let your money grow. You planted the seed. Just let it grow. All right, so that's my take for today. I'll talk to you next time. Make sure you subscribe. Subscribe, like, and share. Let's build this wealth. Own great businesses. Talk to you soon.